Hi there, this is Michelle Calvo-Lorenzo with Elanco Animal Health, and today we are here at the 2018 Elanco Exchange Nutritionist Conference, and with me I have Dr. Sarah Place, who is the Senior Director of Sustainable Beef Production Research at the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, and also with us is Dr. Kim Stackhouse-Lawson, the Director for Sustainability for JBS USA, and also the Chair for the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef. And so we're very lucky to have you both with us today to continue this important conversation on beef production and sustainability, which is what we've been having a lot of conversations with this week with our nutritionist consultants. So thank you both for joining us for this conference. And we ask that you come and talk to us and our viewers on Facebook because you both are very much in tune with the conversations and the goals that the beef industry has in terms of what their efforts look like when they are geared towards environmental stewardship, the social pillar of sustainability, and the economic driver. So this large umbrella of sustainability. So you both are very well in tune with this. So with your knowledge, what we wanted to do was hear your thoughts, your experience, and your efforts and how the industry needs to continue to advance their efforts, support themselves and across the chain, the feed chain, beef chain, and also how to communicate a lot of what they do and what they need to do in terms of continuous improvement in this area. So thank you for coming and talking to us. And so I'll start with a very general question that I think a lot of folks ask. What is sustainability, right? This is a big word. Definitions vary widely across both within our industry and outside of our industry. So I'll turn it to you, Kim, first. What does sustainability mean to you, and how would you define it?
Yeah, so I think you did a great job touching on the three pillars of sustainability, which I think are really critical, right? We can't be sustainable unless we're profitable first. And then it's really balancing the environmental impacts and the social impacts and sort of how that fits within your own region and your own operation and making sure that we're still flexible enough to make all of that applicable to the individual. At JBS, we've simplified our definition of sustainability to really just doing the right things so that we can be in business for the long term. So hopefully that resonates with some of the other individuals who might be viewing this, but sustainability can get very complex, and so really making sure we boil it down to something that's easy and understandable is important.
Great. How about you, Sarah?
I think very similar, right? So it is about those three different areas. As Kim mentioned, you have to be profitable first, right? So economic viability is of utmost importance, along with environmental stewardship and social responsibility, realizing that we are producing a food product, right? I think it's important for producers always to understand that pretty much what they're doing, and as Kim referenced, doing the right thing, that is sustainability. That's what it's all about, right? So when you're taking care of your animals, the land, being a good member of your community, hopefully making a bit of money while you're doing it, that is what sustainability is about, right? So it's a new term for something that's been an industry ethic or ethics for a long time.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's really great. So neat fun fact for our viewers, the three of us went to grad school together, and we did a lot of work in this area of environmental stewardship, right? So let me ask you guys, because there has been, in a lot of survey work, internally and externally to Elanco, that we've seen this increased demand from consumers as well as regulatory pressure regarding environmental stewardship. So relative to the beef industry, how do you guys see the beef producers and packers navigating this area of environmental stewardship?
Yeah, so I'll start just as it relates to JBS. So, I mean, clearly there's always increased regulatory pressure as it relates to the environmental impact. But it's not one I think that our company shies away from, nor do beef producers. And I think in general, the beef value chain really does care about the environment. And at its core and in its essence, beef and the environment coexist, right, in a very harmoniously, so in a very harmonious fashion. And really, it's the basis of all of beef culture. When you really think about it, it is one and the same. I can speak just a little bit from a JBS perspective. So we launched very aggressive environmental targets as it relates to our overall sustainability program. By 2020, we want to reduce our water footprint by 10%, reduce our natural gas footprint by 20%, our greenhouse gas emissions by 20%, and our electricity by 12%. So really forward-facing goals, very aggressive aggressive targets. And the company has invested a tremendous amount into meeting those targets. So, for example, we have one beef plant today that has implemented a number of different pilot projects and is reducing 1 million gallons of water per day in the facility while maintaining food safety standards. So that's just one example of some of the work that we're doing to really help improve our company's sustainability, but also should be taken into account in the industry initiatives that Sarah represents to really improve the story of beef as well.
That's great.
Yeah, so in my role at National Cattlemen's, we're a contractor with the Beef Checkoff, and so we conduct research on sustainability, and a big part of that is doing what we call life cycle assessment research. So essentially, it's environmental accounting, right? It's looking at the whole supply chain and figuring out where our impacts are. So that's important kind of twofold. One, it's important from a benchmarking standpoint, right? You can't manage what you don't measure. And it's important from understanding within the supply chain where are our hotspots and where are areas we can potentially improve, all while, again, keeping in mind first and foremost that it has to be practical and cost effective, whatever solutions we come up with. So from that standpoint, I think when we look at the science, when we look at the evidence, we have a tremendous record of progress, right, to point to from a standpoint of the kind of the simple statistic that's really powerful is the fact that we produce the same amount of beef today with 1/3 fewer animals as compared to the 1970s. And so that means less natural resources, fewer environmental impacts that are required to produce the same amount of human nutrition, right, and a quality eating experience for people. So that is, that's, again, from a standpoint of what we have done or what we're measuring, it's all pretty positive. It's all really about continuous improvement, which I think you'll kind of touch on in a little bit here next.
So this idea of being good stewards to the environment, the common terms I hear often is what you just said, continuous improvement, right? And that has very much to do with not just environmental stewardship, but also the economic drivers and the social pillars of sustainability. So where do you all think, you meet with a lot of producers, right, across the entire beef production chain, and you also interact with a lot of producers, but you're also interacting a lot with retailers and consumers as well, right? So where do you think, as you talk and represent the beef industry, where do you think the most progress has been made to date as you have these interactions with the folks at the core of our beef industry? What's the most progress you've seen to date?
As it relates to sustainability. So I think when we talk about measuring sustainability, the largest achievements that we can scientifically prove are all improvements around production efficiency, right? So whether it's improving reproduction efficiency, improving performance, improving our yields in the plants, really doing the best job we know how, producing more with less. Now, that has to be balanced, right, with this sort of with the social components of sustainability. And so when we talk about all of that, we have to do it in the right way. So we have to do it with the utmost respect for the animal and prioritizing animal welfare and animal health and animal care, number one. And that is, quite frankly, the number one expectation of our consumers and customers, is that animal health is prioritized, not just from an animal welfare perspective, but also from a technology perspective as it relates to antibiotic use. So it's a truly impressive story that beef has to tell. The improvements from a sustainability perspective are impressive, just to say the least.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah, so I think that everything that Kim just said is completely accurate, right, of the progress that's been made over time, and a lot of it coming from all the different ways that we can affect efficiency, from reproduction to genetics to the different biotechnology tools that are out there and being used. But as was also mentioned, there's other aspects of sustainability, right, and things that we should be talking about as well. And I think one of those is, again, kind of stepping back and zooming out and saying, what are we really doing within the industry from a value proposition standpoint, right? What are we bringing to the food system? And I think that's where producers, what they're doing across the entire supply chain, they're using these unique animals, ruminant animals, to convert the things that are inedible to edible, convert waste to worth, right? And so that's one of the key aspects of sustainability as well, is it is doing more with less. but also looking at those things that we already do well and saying how can we maintain those in the future, right? From the standpoint of maintaining animal health and welfare, right? Keep doing what we're doing right, in addition to trying to minimize any negative impacts that we're potentially having.
That's great. That's really great. So last question for you both. Where do you see the biggest opportunities related to the beef industry's, again, sustainability efforts? And also, conversely, what are the biggest challenges that you see as you're interacting and leading these ambitious goals that you both are setting to help us with our industry efforts? What are those big opportunities and challenges that you see that we'll have to navigate through as we move forward?
Yeah, so I think the industry, again, has an incredible track record as it relates to sustainability. It's the most sustainable beef system in the world. It's something we should be very proud of. And of course, we will continue to identify improvement areas and act on those areas to ensure that we remain the trusted leader as it relates to beef sustainability, which I have no doubt that we will. From my perspective, our greatest opportunities really lie in connecting with our consumer. As the consumer moves generationally further and further and further away from the way that their food is produced, there is an incredible opportunity to connect them back to food. And they want to be connected back to food. I think it's one of the most exciting things about the millennial generation is their true emotional attachment to food production. And I feel like this industry has an opportunity like none other to meet that consumer where they're at and to demonstrate that they share the values that they do. And in my view, our largest opportunity is to really own that, right? To not be afraid of using this word that might be nebulous and might have different definitions, but to take it and own it and identify with the consumer in a way that maybe we haven't done before. And I think ultimately, that's our greatest challenge, right? Is to build that trust and to potentially kind of blaze new roads and new territory as we become one succinct value chain all the way to the consumer.
Not you, Sarah.
Yeah, that was a great answer because I think it does highlight the duality of both the opportunity and the challenge going forward. So as was referenced, I mean, we are on the path and have been on that path of continuous improvement, right? So I don't think that's going to change. I think we're going to keep going that way and keep accelerating, right? And like everything in life today, it's the slowest it's going to be right now. And the same thing for the future is as information keeps moving quicker, people have more questions about food. Transparency and that authenticity of their story behind their food is going to be really important. So I think that's both our greatest challenge and our opportunity. And sometimes within agriculture, especially when we get back towards the production side, we can be a little bit closed off and a little bit viewing that negatively, which I think is unfortunate because what a great opportunity that people actually are asking questions about their food. You know, we've gone through several decades where people weren't asking, right? And so this is an exciting time to actually answer those questions. I think our challenge is communicating that in a way that's meaningful to the people that are asking the questions, truly answering their questions, and not overwhelming them with too much detail, too much information.
Yes.
So that communication issue is a serious challenge going forward as well.
Sure. Well, thank you both so much for your time and your insight today. Our viewers definitely, hopefully, enjoyed that as much as I did. Really touched on a lot of substantial progress that our wonderful, beloved industry has made to date, but nonetheless, identify those areas for improvement. So thank you both very much. And the absolute last question, I lied before. Do you have anywhere where you would direct our viewers where they can obtain more information about your work, your ambitious goals, and maybe some of the LCA analyses or other things that you can guide our viewers to? Any websites or locations where they can get more information?
Yes, absolutely. So if you're interested in any of the research that is funded by the Beef Checkoff, the website beefresearch.org is the resource and the clearinghouse for all of our sustainability information, nutrition, everything is housed there. And then, of course, beefitswhat'sfordinner.com is also another great resource for information on sustainability and all things beef.
Great.
And I would direct you to the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef website. That's usrsb.org. And then JBS also has an extensive sustainability site on jbssa.com. And one last thing, I'd like to thank all the beef producers for your tireless efforts so that we have a conversation to have about beef sustainability.
Wonderful. Yep. Well, thank you both again, and thank you to our viewers for tuning in.